It all started on a rainy Friday night. The rain made the city feel strangely lonely. I was just sitting there, alone, sipping my drink at the bar, when she walked in. Wet hair, red lips, eyes that told 1,000 stories. I should have looked away, but I didn't. She wasn't supposed to be there. When our eyes met in the bar, time slowed down. Red lips curled seductively. Her gaze swept over me, daring, teasing, as if she knew something I didn't. The dim light hugged her curves, like a mysterious whisper. I told myself to look away, but desire wasn't something you could command. It just swept it all away. She walked toward me, slowly, gracefully, as if music had been created just to accompany her steps. We didn't need to speak. A faint smile, a slight tilt of the head, and I followed her like a dreamer. Her fingers brushed mine as we reached the door. It felt like electricity. An unspoken agreement had been made. Tonight was ours. No names, no promises, just burning passion. Her breath was warm against my neck as we stumbled into the room. She said nothing, but the silence was louder than any words. Her clothes fell, like confessions, one by one. Her skin was soft, her body wild. Every touch, every sigh, every curve. It was a poem written in heat and heartbeat. We didn't make love. We burned. After that, the room was quiet, but not empty. She lay beside me, her back arched like a soft question mark on the sheets. I wanted to ask her name, but something held me back. Maybe because I know there are stories that are not meant to last forever, but are meant to be remembered forever, like that night. The night that neither of us could ever forget. The next morning, sunlight crept in quietly, painting soft gold on her bare shoulder. I watched her sleep, her breath rising and falling like a lullaby. I should have left before she woke up. That was the rule of one-night stands, wasn't it? But something about her presence made the silence feel warm, like home. And for a moment I wished the night hadn't ended. She stirred, slowly turning toward me, eyes still heavy with sleep. "You're still here," she murmured, voice husky, almost surprised. I just nodded, unsure of what to say. Her fingers found mine under the sheets, a gesture too intimate for strangers. I could smell the faint scent of her perfume on my skin, and it made me ache in ways I couldn't explain. We didn't talk much, just shared quiet glances, lingering touches, and a silence filled with everything unsaid. When she finally stood up to dress, I caught myself staring again, the way her body moved, graceful, unhurried. She was art in motion. I didn't ask for her number. Maybe I was afraid that knowing her more would ruin the mystery, or maybe I was already too drawn in. She paused at the door, turned back, and smiled, the kind of smile that stays with you for days. "Take care," she said softly, then disappeared into the hallway. I stood there for a while, the bed still warm, the scent of her still clinging to the sheets. And just like that, she became a memory I couldn't shake, the kind that lingers long after the touch is gone. I swore I'd forget her, but every night my body betrayed me. I still felt the scratch of her nails down my back, the heat of her breath against my ear when she whispered my name. No, not my name, just baby. Even that, I missed. My sheets still smelled faintly of her perfume, like jasmine and something wild. I didn't wash them. I couldn't. That night kept replaying in my head like a scene I never wanted to end. Her thigh had slid over mine as she pulled me closer, eyes half-lidded, lips parted. I remembered how she gasped when I kissed the inside of her wrist, how her body arched when I whispered, "Don't stop me tonight." God, the way she moaned still echoed in my mind when everything else went quiet. I tried to find someone, else. I even took a girl home last weekend. But when I touched her, it felt wrong, like I was forcing a stranger to play a role only she could fill. I turned off the lights, hoping I could imagine it was her again, but her voice wasn't right. Her breath wasn't warm enough. I stopped halfway and apologized. I couldn't do it. She was a stranger, but she left something inside me I couldn't erase. Her absence burned louder than her presence ever did. I don't even know her name, yet I remember how she bit my shoulder when she climaxed, how she whispered goodbye with trembling fingers. If that was just one night, why did it feel like the most real thing I've ever had? I thought I'd buried every trace of her, until she showed up in that sinful red dress, the one that used to slide off her shoulders when I pulled her onto my lap, breathless and begging. She walked in, fingers laced with his, but her eyes, locked on mine, burning, trembling, remembering. We crossed paths in the hallway, tight space, tighter tension. Her perfume hit me like a punch to the gut, vanilla and sin. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she whispered. But when my fingers brushed her waist, she didn't flinch. Her breath hitched. Her body betrayed her. I cornered her against the wall. "Still crave the way I touched you?" I asked, voice low. She bit her lip. Her hand slid under my shirt, tracing old memories. "This is wrong," she said, but her hips said otherwise, grinding gently, desperately. Then her mouth found mine, wild, bruising. Her tongue tasted like guilt and addiction. Her thigh pressed between my legs, rubbing slow, wicked. She pulled my belt loose, like her hands had never forgotten the rhythm of my undoing. Her dress fell, no words, just a gasp. My mouth devoured her, neck, shoulder, breasts, until she moaned my name like it was her last prayer. Her legs wrapped around me, wet, hungry, clawing at my back. "Harder," she panted. "God, don't stop." For a moment, she was mine again. Body, soul, everything. She shattered in my arms, trembling, whispering my name like a confession. But then, her tears came. "I belong to him now," she sobbed. But her thighs were still clinging to my waist. Her scent still smeared on my skin. Her heartbeat still synced with mine. It wasn't love anymore. It was hunger. A desperate, forbidden hunger that pulled her back to me again and again, even when her heart was somewhere else. We met in silence, in shadows. Her fingers always found mine first, trembling, needy. Her mouth tasted of guilt, but her body always told the truth. It still wanted me, craved me like oxygen. That night, she came with tear-streaked cheeks and shaking hands. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. But her lips were already unbuttoning my shirt. I pulled her into me, rough, desperate, aching. Her legs wrapped around me, her moans muffled against my shoulder. She rode me like she was drowning, and I was her only air. Her whispers broke between gasps. "This is wrong, but it feels like home." Her nails clawed down my back. Our bodies moved like memory, wild, unspoken, raw. Every thrust, every kiss was a war between lust and longing. And then, he called. Her phone lit up. His name. She froze. My hands were still on her waist. Her chest rose and fell against mine. "Don't answer," I begged, but she did. She answered, while still in my arms. Her voice shook. I'll be home soon." And just like that, the silence between us became heavier than all our sins. When she hung up, she didn't speak. Just lay there, eyes glazed with regret. My fingers traced the lines of her face, memorizing what I knew I'd soon lose. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. "I'm tearing myself apart." "But you still came back." "Because I don't know how to stop needing you." Her voice cracked. "But I don't belong to you anymore." I didn't speak. I just kissed her, slow this time, soft, like goodbye. And when she dressed, her body was still trembling, but her eyes, they were already gone. At the door she turned, her lips parted as if she wanted to say stay, or wait, or love me one last time. But nothing came out, just silence, and in that silence, I realized her body stayed with me, but her heart had already walked away. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, even just a little, I'm truly grateful you were here. Please don't forget to like this video. It helps the story reach more souls who might need it. Subscribe to Midnight Musings Stories and turn on the bell icon, so you'll never miss a single night of emotions, love, and longing. And if this story stirred something inside you, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what it made you feel. Until we meet again in the next story, stay warm, stay tender, and never stop believing in love.